Daphne. Hello, my name is Matthew. I thought I would do an update on my e-reader. I've had it for a few weeks now, and a few days ago someone even asked me to talk about my experience using an e-reader versus a physical book. And my overall impression is positive. I think it's an amazing accessory for reading and to read. I had reservations with buying this e-reader in particular. It's a Kindle. More and more often I become conflicted with using Amazon. For some reason they um, seem to be set on world dominance or something. But I like their goods and services, and um, as far as buying an e-reader, I didn't want to buy something from an independent startup company. I wanted something that I felt secure in, and the reviews for this before I had bought it were overwhelmingly positive. And I've seen people that have had these e-readers for 5, 10 years with um, relatively no issues. So, and I buy books off of Amazon relatively frequently, so it was a good fit for me. And uh, I'll say that the novelty of the device uh, went away almost immediately when I actually started reading. And the first book that I read was Demons by Dostoevsky, and pretty much everything went away. I was felt I immediately became engrossed and fell into the book, and in some ways even more so than with a physical book. I wasn't, for as much as I love um, the beauty of a book and its size and proportions and um, feelings of sentimental value. Um, with the e-reader, it really felt more like everything was stripped away except for the words, and I wasn't. I didn't feel as if I was looking at a screen, and I also didn't feel like I was looking at a page. So all of those little ticks and movements that I do with a book that I don't ever think about because that's how I've always read a book. Um, so I'm not turning it back and forth to make sure I'm catching the light. I'm not readjusting the pages to make sure that they are flush on each side. Um, I can change on this thing. I can change the size of the font, and I can change the font itself. So if it's small text and you just have to ignore that for the sake of reading, with this thing I can actually adjust it. And I really fell into reading Demons. I did a review for it. I didn't mention that I read it on an e-reader because it's just not relevant. It, if anything, it made the experience feel cleaner. And to give you some examples, I recently watched Steve Donahue's video on the life of Samuel Johnson by James Boswell, and it's a terrific video and made me interested in reading it. And I realized that my Norton anthology, which I've been going through, has excerpts from the life of Samuel Johnson. So maybe 2 nights ago, or last night, I was in bed, and I'm trying to prop this thing up. And as you can imagine, it was just uncomfortable, and it was maybe the first or one of the very few times that I was hyper aware of this thing that I was holding. And I love this book, don't get me wrong, but it was just annoying having to balance it. And the next day, I went online and found a public domain version of The Life of Samuel Johnson and put it on my e-reader. And so, again, like it just looks like this, and it's just clean. The reading experience has been overwhelmingly positive. Now, I do have some issues with the Kindle in particular. Um, the first thing that I've heard a lot of people mention is that the power button is on the bottom, which seems to be such an absurdly bad decision that I can't understand why, um, how it could possibly have happened. There must have been so much work and time and development in making this thing that there was some decision made, some purpose to have the power button on the bottom, but it's incomprehensible to me. Um, and I've accidentally turned it off just by uh, brushing my finger across the bottom. Like it should just been on the top, and it's really stupid design choice. The other thing that aggravates me is this lock screen or screensaver, which I've looked up. Apparently, I should have the option to be able to change to something that I want, but I can't find. I can't figure out how to do it yet. I still need to fiddle around. I just don't like the idea that Amazon has control over what's the images that are on the screen. Um, I should just be thankful that they're not advertisements, I suppose. Um, and then the actual interface of the user friendliness of using the Kindle outside of reading. So all the stuff that you do to get to the actual text, um, for me, has not been extremely intuitive. There have been certain uh, moments when I was reading Demons. I was using the bookmark feature, and I thought that was going to be terrifically convenient. As I was reading, I came across pages and marked them, and a little ribbon popped down. And when I finished the book, I went to find my collection of bookmarks, and not to say that it's not there, but I couldn't find the parts that I marked. I found the bookmark section, but just nothing was there. So I don't know if I messed up with saving the bookmarks or what, but um, it was aggravating. um, and the other issue that I've had is actually trusting the 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 books that go on to this thing. And since I had bought it, since that point, I had gone onto Amazon and looked up just a handful of books that um, I would really want to have in here. Stuff that I'd like to have um, at my ready at any point. Reliable books that I love. And the ones that were in translation, I found that I would be looking for a specific translator, and it would be identified as such. And then I would start looking through the details and find that it's by a different translator altogether. And that's something that I've seen in general in comments where people will say that this isn't the same exact edition that I was told that I was getting. And that's very frustrating. When I have a book like this, at least I know exactly what's in it. And um, the fact that there's moments where I can't necessarily trust what I'm getting is wearisome. Um, and next month I'm reading um, The Way We Live Now by Anthony Trollope, and this is a read along with my friend and colleague Alan Morton. And I did the same thing. I'm happy that I own this book, but I went onto my I went onto Amazon and found a public domain version, and when we begin, I'm going to try to read it on this. It, like reading Demons, I no longer worried about the size or heft of the book or the length or how many chapters were in it or how long the chapters were. Not that I really get too hung up on those things, but um, I just felt so much focus and all of the distractions went away. Even things like having a sleeping cat next to me and not having to disturb Andy or Daphne while I flipped the pages. I could just, with one thumb, tap on the side. So, overall, I am really happy with the purchase. It's an accessory. I will it will never take over my library or anything like that. Um, and I also have some issues with it. Um, Navigation, usage, trusting the books that are actually going on to this thing, um, not really having full control of what I'm looking at the moment. Um, and so, yeah, and this is a Kindle Paperwhite. It's like it's the one that came out this year. It's the kind it is. Um, Let me know if you have e-readers or if you've gotten the Paperwhite or if you have any other ones that you like or dislike. And leave a comment if you would like. And thank you for watching.